One more time. Hey, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's 12:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Tuesday, January the 19th, 2021. 12:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think I said that already. This is episode 136 of MCRAE Live, and it's a topic that's not going to get views. That's not why I do the show. That's not why I sit and talk with you guys. It's so funny. Somebody sent me a message this morning and said, really? That's what you're talking about? I'm not tuning in. I'm like, okay, then don't tune in. I don't give a fuck. Don't tune in then. Then don't tune in. This is my show. You're not paying for this. It's free. It's free, damn it. Anyway, yeah, so it's so funny this morning. That's what you're talking about? I'm not tuning in. Okay, then don't tune in. Like, then don't tune in. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for it's shit I want to talk about. You know what I mean? Anyways, I just find it funny. I'll be like, something in the water today. No, I want to talk about this because I you know what? I find different things interesting, and it's not always all about horror and Halloween. Listen, that's always going to be the focus, obviously, but, 2020 was a strange year. It was a strange year. There wasn't a lot to talk about in our niche world. Do you know what I mean? And there are a lot of other things I would like to talk about, but I try to do it in bits and pieces. And what I mean by that is I don't want to start down a path. Like, I want to pepper some things in there, right? Okay, let me try and rephrase that. So there's a lot of other things I'd love to talk about because I'm more than just a Halloween guy. There's a lot of other things I find interesting, or, whatever the case is. Hey, that's fascinating. I want to talk about that. And maybe it's in the world of movies. Maybe it isn't. But the thing is that I know how I grew the channel, rose to prominence in our little space. And therefore, I don't want to alienate people unnecessarily. So, you don't want to start down the path where you have 14 shows in a row that have nothing to do with the central focus of your channel. So you want to be able to kind of do things that, which is why, I'll talk, I did, the true crime thing, right? The true crime thing, that's something that was fun. That was fun to talk about that. There's still so much there's other things I want to talk about in relation to that. But then I brought it back and did a Scream show, and the Scream show, of course, the numbers go up, you know what I mean? So, I don't, but at the end of the day, it's, I talk about what I want to talk about. So if the gentleman is watching who messaged me this morning, it's okay. I'm not turning the channel into a I Love Lucy channel. There's just many different, there's other cool shit going on in the world other than the same fucking horror movie over and over again, with all due respect. And I'm a big Halloween fan, but guys, come on, man. I mean, how much longer can we beat a dead horse into the ground? But it's like, okay, yeah, we know. I want to talk about other shit. And this crossed my path, and I thought it was interesting. So that's what I want to talk about. I mean, look at this. 32 people watching right now. If I was talking Halloween, there'd be 242 people watching. I don't care about I Love Lucy. That's because you're 4 years old. Anyway, did I offend somebody? Anyway, okay, so here's the situation. So I actually am a big Lucille Ball fan. And of course, her big thing is her big sort of, I mean, she's done many other things, but she will always be known for Lucy Ricardo. And I adore that show. I remember as a kid, of course, it was on way before I was born, but back in the 80s and early 90s, it used to come on in the mornings during the week, and it would be in a funny block or not a funny block, but a really cool block where they would play 2 episodes of I Love Lucy, followed by 2 episodes of The Andy Griffith Show, followed by 2 episodes of Happy Days. It was a really cool thing. It was actually, I remember this as a kid. I was 11, And I remember in the morning, you'd have like Price is Right at like 11, and then you'd have Something Really Cool at noon, and then you'd have like I Love Lucy, and then followed by Andy Griffith, Leave It to Beaver, and then you'd roll right into like 3 or 4 o'clock where like Family Ties would come on. Like my whole day was like set as like an 11-year-old child. It was amazing. So anyway, I love the show. I think it's hilarious, and there is word right now, of course, and that they are planning on doing a biopic, but it's interesting. It's not a biopic in the way that you would like. It's not like the life of her, where they follow her from the time she was born to where she got the show and right up to her death. I mean, it apparently takes place in 1 week, like a week sort of time frame of the I Love Lucy show. And obviously they would have picked a very interesting kind of week to do that with. Anyway, let me read you the article, and then we'll talk about who they're thinking about casting. And who apparently the world of fandom wants cast, and how I have my own thoughts on that. So we'll talk about that in a second here. But let's go over to the, I think it's this one. Yes, this one here. Okay, so this comes from our friends over at Screen Rant. This is Natalie Hunter wrote this. So this here is Nicole Kidman is in talks to star as Lucille Ball in the biopic. She's in talks. She's in talks. Okay, interesting. Nicole Kidman is in talks to star as Lucille Ball in the upcoming Amazon Studios biopic titled Being the Ricardos, penned by Aaron Sorkin. Now he's a pretty good writer. he's definitely a name in the world of Hollywood writing, that he's got a lot of accolades. He's the real deal. He's somebody that, you feel confident in writing, almost anything. So this is pretty cool. Now, before we jump in, she's too old. She's Nicole Kidman. Let's talk about this before we move into that territory. So, the article says Nicole Kidman is in talks to star in the upcoming Lucille Ball biopic titled Being the Ricardos. Okay. Ball is best known for her sitcom I Love Lucy. That is true. I Love Lucy first aired on CBS in 1951. 1951. 1 second here. I want to make sure that I have... I do have that. Okay, I want to make sure that my mic was... Okay. In 1951, and ran for 6 seasons. The quirky comedy, or quirky, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Comedy follows Lucy's life in New York City, married to band leader Desi Arnaz. As Desi tries to make it big, Lucy always manages to go on some outlandish adventure and get herself in trouble. The series was inspired by Lucy and Desi's real-life marriage. For those of you that don't know that, they were married in real life. They actually were husband and wife in real life. I hear music, and I don't know where that's coming from. Their marriage ended in divorce after the show, but nonetheless, even though the show came out 70 years ago, holy shit, 70 years ago, it is still one of the most beloved comedies of all time, no doubt about it, 100%. Deadline confirms that Kidman is in talks to star in Being the Ricardos. Kate Blanchett was initially attached to the role during the project's early stages of development. At that point, the project was titled Lucy and Desi. I think I remember this. Javier Bardem is eyed to play Kidman's counterpart, Desi Arnaz. Based on looks, like if we're thinking of who's based on looks, who would be playing Lucy? And I wouldn't necessarily think of Nicole Kidman and Javier Bardem. But nonetheless, 2 great actors. We can agree on that. 2 solid, really good actors. We certainly can agree on that. And you certainly can see why they might choose Javier and why they might choose. I mean, it's not like they've hired Danny DeVito and Melissa McCarthy or something. I mean, it's not that extreme, okay? I mean, then you'd be like, this seems a little strange. I mean, certainly you can kind of see it if you really put your mind to it. Neither actor has closed deals on the roles yet, but both Kidman and Bardem are reportedly enthusiastic about the project. Renowned writer Aaron Sorkin penned the screenplay, and recently signed on to direct the film as well. Fascinating. Direct the film as well. The Amazon Studios project will be produced by escape artists Todd Black, Jason, I guess that would be Blumenthal, I guess, and Steve Tisch, I want to say. Interesting, fascinating. There they are. Of course, the real couple from the 50s. I fucking love that show. It was so great. As a pick to play Lucille Ball, Kidman may strike some as an odd choice since the actress isn't particularly well known for her comedic roles. But this is very important to remember for all of you out there who are like, Nicole Kidman, you got to get Debra Messing. We'll talk about Debra Messing in a second. Being the Ricardos isn't strictly a comedy, though, and the movie is sure to feature the couple's behind-the-scenes drama as well as their on-screen antic. In that case, Kidman should be able to definitely portray, definitely portray the both the public and private life of Lucy. Yeah, I would think so. Being the Ricardos will not only focus on Lucy and Desi's life as a married couple, but what it was like for them behind the scenes of I Love Lucy and how working together impacted their marriage. The film takes place over one production week, starting from the Monday table read up until the Friday live performance. During the film, the couple will endure high-stake crisis that could end their careers and marriage. Now think about this. Okay. Now, again, that doesn't mean that Debra Messing couldn't play Lucy, but you now understand maybe why they've hired an A-list actress like an Academy Award-winning actress like Nicole Kidman. You kind of get that sense of maybe why they're thinking in that direction. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Was that it? Was that it? I guess that was it. That was a weird way to end the article, but that was it. Okay, I guess that was. Oh, next start. No, that was it. Okay, so let me go back. It was a weird. Felt like there should be more. Like the movie ended 10 minutes before it should have. Okay, so let me go. Okay, so really cool, really fascinating. It's probably sometimes when you have actors and performers and entertainers that have such a deep, rich life, and there's so much to tell. You can't usually do that justice within a couple of hours. Okay, it's not that you can't at all, but especially when somebody lives like a full life, there's so much to tell. So sometimes the best thing to do in a biopic, when we think of biopic, we usually default to, it's their life. It's their entire life. Like we see them when they're born and when they're little, and we see them rise to prominence and all this kind of stuff. And yes, there are biopics that are like that, but sometimes the best biopics, especially when you're doing something about like a bona fide legend, like, Lucille Ball or Elvis Presley or even Elton John, Rocket Man and things like that. Sometimes it's best to not saturate it and pick something that sort of encapsulates the good, the bad, and the ugly, and sort of all in one sort of 2-hour block that is a section and a moment in this actor and performer's life that is everything you need to know, right? And you can sort of take that information as you watch the biopic, and you understand the character, you understand the human being, you understand the trials and tribulations that they went through, even though they've only told this part of their life, because you can relate it to the rest of their life. And that sounds like it's what they're doing, clearly, with this biopic being the Ricardos. It's not just about Lucille Ball. It's not just her doing crazy, silly, funny things. You're going to get that for sure, because it takes place within a week time frame of the show. But it's really about, it's not just about her being funny on stage. You'll see it, but it's about the it's about the Ricardos, because you have to remember they were married in real life. They were actually husband and wife, not just playing husband and wife. They were husband and wife. So you're going to see that drama and that those performances away from the stage, away from the set, and how they interacted and the things they would talk and all that kind of stuff, right? Within this week block, and what was really going on behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. So there's no doubt that there's going to be a big dramatic performance to this. This isn't a comedy film, so you need somebody with some serious acting chops. Now, that doesn't mean that Debra Messing couldn't do it. When I found out about this biopic, I was like, oh, that's cool. Okay. Nicole Kidman. Yeah, I guess I could see that. And then immediately I found out that people were like, no, Debra Messing, it should be Debra Messing, should be Debra Messing. Now, I was like, with all due respect to Debra Messing, I was like, who's Debra Messing again? I couldn't put the face to the name. This is like a couple days ago. So I Googled her and I was like, oh, Will and Grace, Debra Messing. Oh, okay. I don't watch Will and Grace. I never watched the original show. I haven't watched the reboot. I don't know. I've seen her in other things. And she's funny. Like she's cute. She's funny. She's charming. There's nothing wrong with her. And then of course I found out why, because she dressed up as Lucille Ball, as Lucy, for some skits and throwbacks on Will and Grace. So I looked that up and I watched it, and there is no doubt, and you'd have to have the brain of a water bottle. They don't even have brains. But anyway, I mean, to not look at her, she's on the thumbnail. The thumbnail on this video is not Lucille Ball. It's Debra Messing. I mean, she looks exactly like a young Lucille Ball. She does. She does. Absolutely she does, right? 100%. But when I watch her on the little skits they did for Will and Grace, when I watch her, I'm like, yeah, she's got the manners, and we're watching her in comedic performances, in a comedic setting. I'm like, yeah, she looks like her, 100%. If this was just on looks, like if this was like at an amusement park and she could just sit there and smile and, oh my God, and get your photo taken with her, holy fuck, man. Yes. But she sounds nothing like Lucy. Nothing. And now that doesn't mean, because I know what your next question, well, but Dave, she's an actress. She could learn how to, 100%. If she was I imagine that if she was going to do the biopic or a biopic, one of the big, because Lucy had such a distinct voice, right? And such a distinct sound and such a distinct cadence, and in the way that she delivered her lines and the way that she would look when she delivered her lines, her voice is almost just as important to her, not just Lucy from I Love Lucy, but I mean Lucille Ball. It's so important to her as the icon of American television that she is, as Elvis's voice is to Elvis, or Michael Jackson's moonwalk is to Michael Jackson. I mean, it's part of her trademark in some ways, is that distinct voice that she has, right? You remove that, and it's not like just looking at Debra Messing on the Will and Grace show, right? When she's doing that, I was like, yeah, it looks like her. When she opened her mouth, it immediately took me out of it. Immediately took me out of it. And I thought, now this looks like somebody cosplaying as Lucy, and a really good cosplayer, like really, really good. But she sounds nothing like Lucy, like so much so that it's distracting. And I would imagine you could say, well, yeah, but it wasn't but I would imagine that if you could, why wouldn't you go there for Will and Grace? Why wouldn't you just go there and try to be that, Anyway, now, to be fair, was Debra Messing, because Will and Grace fans can totally let me know, on that show, was Debra Messing dressed up as Lucy, but was she supposed to be her character from Will and Grace dressed up as Lucy? So that's why she sounded like herself? I don't know. All I'm saying is that it ain't just about looks, people. It ain't just about looks. This isn't a It Chapter 2 thing with Jessica Chastain, is that her name or whatever, where they wanted her to play Beverly, right? Yeah, that makes sense. Like, you totally look at the young actress who played Beverly in It Chapter 1, and you look at, I think it was Jessica Chastain. It was her, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Chad. But when you look at her, you're like, yeah, but that's just about looks. Because Bev's voice doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not part of the character. It's not part of her identity. Do you know what I mean? It's not part of her identity. So it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. That was just about looks, because somebody tried to use that as the excuse. Well, yeah, but look what they did with Jessica Chastain and how she be, it was Beverly. Yeah, and that was a good call, because she literally looks like the older version of that kid, and that's just about looks. And doesn't matter what she sounds like. I mean, as long as she doesn't have some Russian accent all of a sudden and she still sounds American, well, then fine. Not a big deal, right? With Lucy, it's different. It's like casting somebody who plays Elvis, You got to have somebody who looks like Elvis, but you got to have somebody who sounds like Elvis and doesn't sound like a cosplayer trying to be Elvis, like me, going, hey, baby, what's going on? So, I say, huh? You can't have that. You can't overdo it. Right? It's got to be very, very, very nuanced. When my dad was on Jerry Springer, yeah, that's right. For those of you that may be tuning in, this is a long story. This is back in the early days, early 90s, when Jerry Springer was like a Montel. My dad was on there, believe it or not. My dad was a journalist, for those of you that don't know. Anyway, there's this whole thing about how Elvis was alive and well and, living in Tweed and blah, blah, blah. And they tricked the audience, and my dad had a friend of his. I'm giving you the real basic version here. My dad had a friend of his who could do an Elvis impression. And I mean, like, talk like Elvis, and he would have you fooled. If you're an Elvis fan, he'd fool you, no problem. No problem at all. He had the cadence and the nuances, and he wasn't on the phone going, well, I'll sing baby. He wasn't doing, he was just talking, and he sounded exactly like Elvis Presley would talk. Exactly. Do you know what I mean? So it's that kind of thing where you need to understand the nuances and the voice and the cadence for that to happen. Yeah, there's some people probably going, what? He was on Jerry Springer? Yeah, it's a great story, as Frank said. And I do have, and again, though, you got to think of Jerry Springer when he first began, not Jerry Springer like you know him. Jerry Springer from like 1990, okay, and 91 and 92, and very, very early on. He was like a Montel. He was like a regular talk show, or like a Sally, Jesse, Raphael. There's a deep cut for you. So anyway, I look at Debra Messing and I'm not convinced, because it's not just about the look. If it was just about the look, maybe. Yeah. Maybe I'd be like, well, if she doesn't have to speak, okay, yeah, that'd be stupid not to do that. She looks exactly like her, like exactly like her. It's great, but it's not just about the look, right? And this isn't a comedy. I don't get the sense that this is a comedy, folks. This looks like a drama, maybe I don't want to even say a dramedy, but like, there's going to be comedic elements, but they're always going to be, those comedic elements are always going to be followed up with the drama that happens immediately after, behind the scenes, and I mean, show business ain't all sunshine and rainbows, Rocky Balboa, but it isn't. There's a lot of drama, and they were married in real life, and there's going to be a lot of shit that we're probably going to see and go, wow, I didn't know that. And I think Nicole Kidman, I don't know if Nicole Kidman's the right choice. I have no idea. It's easier to imagine Debra Messing as Lucille Ball because we've seen her dressed essentially in cosplay. I mean, that's essentially what she was doing as Lucille Ball. So, and she looks exactly like her. So psychologically, it's easier to see her like that. We've never seen Nicole Kidman dressed up as Lucille Ball, at least not as far as I know, right? So it's more difficult to kind of imagine that. I think Cate Blanchett would have been a very interesting choice. I think based on looks, unless they were going to do a bit of prosthetics, I think Kidman is the better choice for Ball than Blanchett, just based at face value in terms of looks. Because I think I can get there in my mind with Nicole Kidman a bit more. I put the wig on her, do a little, yeah, like I can see it. And Nicole Kidman's talented. I know she hasn't been relevant really in the last 10 years or so, maybe a little longer than that. But unfortunately, and this is, as you've heard me say many times, the reality of show business, it's not very kind for women. It's not that you can't have older, I mean, you have to be like a Meryl Streep, you know, to be working that long. And unfortunately, because a lot of show business is about how you look, you know, it can affect women as they get older more than it does men. Now that doesn't affect men too, but we know this. So no, Nicole Kidman hasn't been, you know, at the top, like A-list and tons of shit for years, but she's still an A-list actress. She's still an incredible actress. She's still beautiful to this day. I don't like the plastic surgery she's had done. I really don't. I think it's always better when women can age gracefully. And who knows, maybe some women that I look at that are in their 60s or their 50s, maybe they have had work done. And if they have, then it's like not even noticeable. But it always, but why do they do it? Right? There's a reason why they do it. They're in a business where looks matter. You know, and regardless of whether you think it should or it shouldn't, it does. Looks matter. To even say that looks don't matter in our lives, of course they do. Do you think I would be with my girlfriend if I wasn't sexually attracted to her? Of course not. The thing is, it's not always about looks, right? That's not the only thing that matters. It's the most important thing is what is inside, but you got to define that, right? You got to go on and say, well, yeah, because we've all been there. I mean, we've all seen girls and guys, for you ladies in the audience, from afar, and you're like, wow, they're really fucking hot. Holy shit. Like a 9 out of 10, you know what I mean? And then you start talking to them and you're like, okay, now you're a 3. Now you're a 3. You know, their personality, whatever it is about their personality or demeanor just drops them down to like a 3, right? And we've all had situations where we see people and they're like maybe a 6 or a 7 out of 10 from afar, you know, or maybe even a 5. You're like, yeah, they're okay. They're average. And then you get to know them and talk to them and they immediately become like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 because of their personality. They're dynamic. They're charismatic. They're kind. You know, that can happen too. So it's not all about looks, but to say looks just don't matter at all, that's just bullshit. And people just need to fuck off with that shit. It's nonsense. Of course looks matter. But it's unfortunate to work in a business, especially for women, because women are so sexualized, where you get to a certain age and to feel you have to be able to compete, you got to have plastic surgery. So I'm not a big fan of the plastic surgery that Nicole Kidman has had done. She still looks okay, but you can tell she's had work done. But she's talented. She's Academy Award winning. She's brilliant. She's a good actress. So do I think she could pull it off? Yes, I do. It's certainly the dramatic side of things, but we'd have to see what she looks like in the getup. We'd have to see what she looks like in, in doing comedy, nailing all of the certain, am I going to see Lucille Ball or am I going to see Nicole Kidman, doing Lucille Ball? But give credit where credit is due. Debra Messing definitely looks like Lucille Ball. But this isn't just a comedy, folks. This isn't just a rip-roaring, the #1 comedy of the year. This is not what this is. It's more than that. It's deeper than that. It's more dramatic than that. It's more serious than that. I don't know. And right now, if it's just on looks alone, Debra Messing doesn't sound anything like Lucille Ball. Nothing. It took me out of it. Just YouTube it. YouTube Debra Messing, Lucille Ball. And the first one, it's in black and white. Oh, no, the first one's not in black and white. I watched one that was in color that actually had Lucille Ball's daughter in it as well, which was really cool. No, that one was in black and white. The one I watched wasn't in black. Anyway, just YouTube it, and you'll see. And it's like, yeah, no, she doesn't sound anything like her. So I don't know. I mean, that's how I feel about it. I want people to understand because, again, there's very little nuance out there. No, just cast Debra Messing. And you're saying that because of the looks. That's why you're saying that. It's not based on any sort of evidence that she could pull off the dramatic parts. It's not based off her voice. It's just based off the way she looks. And it's not always about how you look. You can have, it's not about replicating and you've heard me say this 1,000 times, it's about the essence of the character. It's not about a carbon copy of the character. Does it help if you are able to cast somebody like Debra Messing who looks identical to her in the getup and she can pull it off and sound like her? Yes, that would be amazing. But then Debra Messing should upload a video of her on YouTube doing Lucille Ball's voice. She doesn't have to be dressed as her. Just do the voice. Do a scene just as Debra Messing. Let's see your voice. Let's hear your voice. Because as a casting director, that would be one of my stipulations. Okay, you look like her, but we can make anybody look like her. Yes, you look like her, but Debra Messing's not the only person we could make look like Lucille Ball. There's a lot of talented actresses out there we could hire. That voice and that cadence and that nuanced performance, those little subtleties, those things that make that character are going to be huge. And so, is she right for Lucy? Maybe, but not surprising. The world of fandom, of course, is just, yes, I saw her on Will and Grace. She was amazing. Well, she looked amazing. And she had all the faces down and all the, the things that, Lucy did and all the, and all these, faces and all this stuff. Yeah, she's got it down. But it also helps that she looks like Lucy, that they've made her look like her, right? You could make me look like, you could put shit on me and make me look like, I don't know, fucking Tom Cruise. And if I start going like this and doing this and stuff, wow, Dave looks like Tom. Well, yeah, because they've made me look like Tom Cruise. That's why I look like Tom Cruise. You know what I mean? Debra Messing doing that as Debra Messing doesn't look anything like Lucille Ball. So there's that part of it too, right? So, and again, I'm not trying to poop on somebody's party. I just find fandom fascinating. I don't know. And I just, whenever fandom gets excited about something, I get excited too, but I look deeper. I always go, well, I don't know, and I don't know. Is Debra Messing right? I don't know. I have no idea. She looks like her, but there's one very important, and again, I'll just reiterate this point and then we'll go over to the chat room. It's important for people to remember that Lucille Ball's voice and her performance, the voice and the cadence and everything she used with Lucy on I Love Lucy is just as important to that character as Elvis Presley's voice is to Elvis. If you hire Debra Messing, she looks like Lucy, but she doesn't sound anything like her. I'm sorry, all I see is somebody cosplaying as Lucy. I don't see Lucy. She's got to, and she doesn't have to sound exactly like her, like identical, where I close my eyes, I'm like, oh my God, it's Lucille Ball. No, but the essence has to be there. It's got to be good enough. It's got to be really good that I go, yep, I believe it. Yes, for a biopic, totally, 100%. And as an actress, Debra Messing, I'm sure would, if she was hired, if she's directed to do that, which you got to do, she would work to do that, no doubt. But who's to say Nicole Kidman couldn't do it better? I don't know, right? Who knows? I would take, basically what I'm trying to say is that I would take somebody who looks pretty much like Lucy, but sounds a lot like her and has a great dramatic performance over somebody who looks identical to her, but doesn't sound anything like her and maybe can't hit quite the deep dramatic performances. Do you know what I'm saying? I would take the other, 100%. Like that. No problem. No problem at all. But that's me. So I think the jury is still out. Is Debra Messing right for Lucy? I think the jury is still out. For me, the jury is still out. But the world of fandom already has her locked in. So I don't know. And who knows? Maybe they will end up casting her. Or maybe they'll reach out and say, hey, you should do this, Debra Messing was born to play Lucy. I don't know about that. I guess I just always find the extremes funny. And very few people like to, talk about, I don't know. I guess there's no nuance anymore. Let's go over to the chat room and see what you guys are saying about this. Hey, if you're watching after the fact, comment below and let me know. Are you excited about this? Are you excited? Are you an I Love Lucy fan? Is this something that you're excited about, that you want? I don't know. Let me know. I'm a big I Love Lucy fan. I adore that show. And of course, back in the day, you had to watch it on television. Now you can just YouTube a bunch of videos, so it's always fun. But let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Simon says, sometimes we don't expect or like the idea of one talking on the role of an iconic character. It lowers our expectations, and we may enjoy it more. For me, an example was Joaquin Phoenix in Joker. Well, sometimes we don't expect or like the idea of one taking on the role, taking on the role of an iconic. Yeah, and I can understand that. But with all due respect, it's like, get over it. Unless, and like the thing that I would say to that, and I don't mean that personally, I just mean like, guys, like unless it's like really bad, like Danny DeVito cast as the Joker. Like, I mean, come on. Joaquin Phoenix, brilliant actor. And when you do your research and you learn about the kind of Joker movie it is, now it's not going to be this kind of movie, it's going to be that kind of movie, it's going to be this. And how many times have you guys been proven wrong? How many times do people have to go, only to be proven wrong? Right? I mean, look what happened with Heath Ledger, that guy from from Brokeback Mountain. Now he's arguably one of the greatest Jokers in the history of cinema. Not that there's been that many of them. I always like to point out, because I find it funny, people go, he's the greatest Joker. I'm like, he was only the third Joker to ever do it. Like, calm your fucking tits. Anyway, there's a lot of other people that could do it. So, like, I get it from a fan perspective, but, you got to think about it, right? Like, I mean, if they hired, Danny DeVito to be the Joker, or no, they hired, Melissa McCarthy as Laura Croft, then you're like, well, yeah, I get it. You're like, what are you doing? Like, what the fuck is going on here, right? But if they hired, like, I don't know, well, what they hired, God, I don't even know any young, fit actresses. I'm so out of touch. But you know what I mean, right? There's a lot of people that can play different roles, and they're actors. That's their job. And Joaquin Phoenix, knocked it out of the park. Heath Ledger knocked it out of the park. There were a lot of people, Ben Affleck is Batman. And then, now, to be fair, Ben Affleck may still not be your favorite Batman, but he shut a lot of people up, because there are a lot of people out there that was like, he's actually not that bad. You know what I mean? And then you had Henry Cavill as Superman. He's pretty good. It happens all the time. I just don't get it. Robert Pattinson as Batman. Oh, you mean Mr. Sparkle? Oh, Sparkle. You see the trailer for the Batman. Oh, he actually looks pretty good. Happens all the time, and I just find that part of fandom kind of funny. It's kind of like, I think it's because for the most part, a lot of fans don't think beyond just how they emotionally feel, because part of being a fan is being emotionally attached to things, is having that nostalgia. I get emotionally attached too. I'm not saying I'm void of that. Of course not. That'd be ridiculous. I get emotionally attached just as much as the next person. But I think it's so important that we always do our best to try to look at things a little objectively and go, well, this actually might be pretty good. What about this? What about that? It's this kind of movie. It's that kind of movie. Well, he is a great actor, and he looks, and sort of try to, but it's hard for a lot of people. It's hard for a lot of people that are emotionally attached. They only see it one way. They don't like change. They don't like things to move on. And I'm always of the mindset that unless it's like even Chris Pratt, right? For me, you guys know me. I am not a big fan of the idea of Chris Pratt being Indiana Jones. And I've stated my reasons why. I don't see it. I don't see it. But that doesn't mean that if he was cast as Indiana Jones, he wouldn't do a great job. And I wouldn't see it. And I'm the kind of person that would be like, really? They cast him? Okay, well, all right. Well, we'll see how this goes. We'll see how that goes. All right. And then I'm like, well, he's okay. Let's see how this goes. I don't do videos and how much bullshit it is. And it's like, it's not like, because it's Chris Pratt. Like even I can see that, okay, he might not be my first choice, but he's handsome. He's fit, right? He's younger. Yes, you put the fedora on him and sure. Okay. I mean, I can see it, it's not like they've hired, Stanley Tucci. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's extremes, like, okay. Like, so I always try to reserve my, what the fuck, for like clearly miscast, like clearly. I don't care how good of an actor you are. There's no reason why Melissa McCarthy would be cast as Lucille Ball. Like, it's just like, what? Do you know what I mean? You know, I mean, you wouldn't even cast her as Ethel. I mean, maybe you would. I think her name was Ethel, right? The next door neighbor. Maybe. She's more of an Ethel than a Lucille, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? But yeah, dude, like, but I get it, man. A lot of people are emotionally attached to what they love, and it can be very difficult for people to look at things objectively. It really can. That's one of the things that I've always tried to bring to this channel and bring to my shows and teach people. And I'm not perfect, but I always try to tell people, try to look at things from other points of view a little bit. Try not to get so, you know, tribalism or tribalism, but try not to make it so, just so like one way. You know, there's other things. It's why it's like the people that, no, you know, Robert Englund will always be Freddy. There'll never be another Freddy. It's like, there'll never be another Freddy in the history of entertainment, in the history of the world, in the history of the world's population, in the history of actors. Any actor all over the world, in every country, there is nobody on the face of the fucking planet that could ever play Freddy Krueger and do it justice. I mean, what kind of mindset is that? No, what you're really saying is that Robert Englund will always be your Freddy. You will always see Robert as Freddy. You don't want to see anybody else as Freddy because Robert is your Freddy because he's the Freddy you grew up with. Well, yes, that's fair. That's a great statement to make, right? Like Harrison Ford will always be my Indiana Jones and Han Solo, right? How Sean Connery was a lot of people's James Bonds. How Daniel Craig will be a lot of people's James Bond. Like 100%. But to insinuate that nobody could ever do justice to Freddy Krueger is just ridiculous. And it's melodramatic, you know, and it's that kind of stuff where I can't take people seriously when they say that because they're speaking from an emotional place, a very angry emotional place. They're not thinking logically, you know, and all it's going to take is somebody to come along and them to go, oh, fucking so-and-so. And all of a sudden he blows people away and they're the first to go, ooh, it's really good. Yeah. You know, and it's like, well, yeah, of course it is, because it's absurd to think that nobody in the history of actors ever again could ever play Freddy Krueger and do it justice and make you as a Robert Englund fan go, wow, that was actually really good. You know, that was actually really good. He did a really good job. Of course. 100%. Anyway, that was quite the tangent. I keep hearing singing. I don't know why. Frank Riker sends in a $10 super chat. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate that. Dave, was there a biopic you were impressed by? An actor's portrayal? Downey as Chaplin or Hopkins as Nixon Hitchcock? Also, Rich Little, I believe, was hired for his voices than looks. Yeah, Rich Little. My dad met Rich. I have a photo of Rich Little and my dad somewhere around here. And he met him with my brother Neil, I think. I don't know where that is. Rich Little was okay. There were a lot of voices that Rich Little did that I thought were funny and were good. And then there were some impressions I didn't think were as good as maybe Rich Little thought they were. But nonetheless, yeah, I mean, he's a classic impressionist from way back. I have not seen biopic. I haven't seen Chaplin. I have seen Nixon and Hitchcock, and both I really liked. I thought Anthony Hopkins it's hard with Anthony Hopkins because he's so Anthony Hopkins. Do you know what I mean? Like with Hitchcock, I don't know. With Hitchcock, I have trouble with Anthony Hopkins in biopics because I just see Anthony Hopkins because he's such a presence and he's such a great actor, but I don't necessarily see the character he's playing. And I understand why he was hired for Nixon and why he was hired for Hitchcock, especially. I think I might have liked Hitchcock better than Nixon. I might have been able to see Hitchcock a bit better in there. And of course, Helen Mirren playing his wife was great. She was fantastic. She's still stunning to this day. My God, is Helen Mirren not beautiful to this day? She's stunning. And I think she's like, what is she, like 70 something? She looks fan-fucking-tastic. I'd date her. No, but seriously, she looks good. She looks really good. So yeah, I would say, and then other biopics. I don't know why I'm always blanking here. Let me just see, biopics. God, I know I've seen a lot. Really? That was a biopic? I saw Wild with Reese Witherspoon. I didn't realize that was, I mean, I know it was based on a true story, but I think it was a biopic. I think they're being very lax with their biopics. I saw La Bamba way back in the day, like way back when it came out. I've seen Bohemian Rhapsody. I enjoyed it. I know Queen hardcores are like, oh, it was watered down and it wasn't so blah, blah, blah. I get it. I understand it. But for what it was, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Lincoln. I did see Lincoln. I've seen The Aviator. The Irishman. I guess that's, yeah, I don't really think of these as biopics. I did see that though. I did see The Irishman. I have seen Hacksaw Ridge. Wow, they're calling that a biopic too. I guess, like, yeah, I get they're based on true stories. I guess they're biopic. Oh, The King's Speech. I loved The King's Speech. Loved The King's Speech. Loved that. Thought that was a great movie. Loved The King's Speech. And I mean, if you're classifying it, of course, The Social Network was really good. Ray was really good. A Beautiful Mind was really good. 12 Years a Slave was really good. Yeah, I guess if you're classifying all these as biopics, then I guess I've seen quite a bit. Ali, yeah, with Will Smith back in the day. I saw that in the theater. That's like 20 fucking years ago now. So yeah, I've seen quite a bit. And most, like, I don't think I've seen one that I thought was crap. I mean, is The Wolf of Wall Street a biopic? I guess that would be a biopic too, if you're, if we're going in that direction. So I like The Wolf of Wall Street too. Thought that was good. Jonathan Ball says, Dave, I loved Trumbo. Oh yes, Trumbo with Bryan Cranston. Very interesting look at how devastating cancel culture is. I've yet to see it, and now I'm very fascinated in seeing it. I'm hearing feedback in my headphones. I think it's because I have there's a text message. Oh, missed call text message. Oh God, don't you hate this? I missed two missed calls. I've missed 2 missed calls. What? Okay, so I have I don't know what this is, but I have you know how I don't know if you guys have this, but when you miss a call, right, and it goes to voicemail, they'll send, like, I'll get a text message with what the voicemail says, and all I have here is hey Scott, been trying to get a hold of you for the last few weeks. If you can give me a call when you get this. Now my middle name is Scott, but I have no idea who this is. So probably wrong number. I'll listen to it. Ben Kingsley and Gandhi. Yes, I haven't seen. Have I seen that? I want to say yes, but it's been a long time. If I have, I don't know. I think what's important to remember too is, like I said, when you do like Malcolm X, or when you do a biopic on, like, if you're gonna do Martin Luther King, which they did, right? Or if you wanted to, like, sometimes they can be great, but generally, like I said at the top of the show, when you're doing like a historic cultural icon, whether it's in entertainment or politics or whatever the case is, sometimes it's best to just pick a part of their life and tell the most, what they're best known for, or something that maybe a lot of people don't know about, right? Like, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things in this Lucy biopic that people are like, oh fuck, I didn't know it was, because there are still people to this day, believe it or not, there are still people to this day that didn't even know that Lucy and Desi were married, like in real life. I say that to people and they're like, oh yeah, I know, on the show. Like, no. I mean, they were actually married. They were real husband and wife in real life. And they're like, really? Like, yeah. Like, can you imagine that? And they're both entertainers. Can you imagine the egos and the fucking back? Well, no wonder they divorced after the show. You know what I mean? And it was after the show that they divorced. I find that hilarious. Oh my God, there's probably shit we don't even know about. Well, there is shit we don't even know about. So anyway, I find that funny. Yeah, Evil Alex, Kurt Russell as Elvis. Yeah, Kurt Russell, I've seen bits and pieces of John Carpenter's Elvis, and to be fair, Kurt Russell looks nothing like Elvis. I mean, you can make him up to, he's young. I mean, Kurt Russell was young and handsome, so you can make him a young, handsome kind of guy that has a bit of that rounder kind of face. Yeah, you can make him look a little bit like Elvis, and he wasn't the worst Elvis. 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 There's been some Elvis impersonators and shit where I'm like, I look more like Elvis, and I look nothing like Elvis Presley, but I look more like Elvis than that person does. Frank Riker says, I guess the ultimate biopics would be Ben Kingsley as Gandhi and Lawrence of Arabia. I guess so. Yeah. I mean, it depends, right? I think just looking at what Google considers a biopic, it seems to me that it's pretty lax. Like, does that mean anything based on a true story is a biopic? Because I always thought a biopic would be somebody like more focused on well, not necessarily an individual, but like a biopic would, yeah, I guess I'm just trying to, I have a thought and then I realize that no, my thought isn't actually totally correct. So I'm like, yeah, I guess so. I guess all the movies I see here, I guess they could be all biopics, I guess. Yeah, I guess so. Interesting. Just looking at them here. All right. Interesting stuff. Let me see. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. I don't believe I did, and it doesn't look like I did, but looking at myself on the screen here, I need a shave. Look at that. Shave big time. I need a shave. I look like a bum. My face always starts to look like when I don't shave. I'm going to grow a big beard and have it like come down like this. Big beard and stroke it. Be great. Let me see here. Envy Killa 999 says, "Hey Dave, what movies are you looking forward to in 2021?" Well, I'm looking forward to Godzilla versus Kong, of course. I'm upset, obviously, that I probably won't get to see that in the theaters. I know it's being released in the theaters simultaneously on HBO Max, but the theaters here right now are all closed. So whether they'll be open in March, I really have no idea. I'm hoping they'll be open in March because that's the kind of movie again, I have a home theater with a big screen and surround sound but I don't want to watch Godzilla versus Kong in my home theater. I'm going to go watch on a 65-foot fucking screen. You know what I mean? That's the size of my house, you know? Oh, my house isn't that 65 feet. My house isn't that tall. But I just mean that, you know, a big screen, you know what I mean? That's huge. That's what I want to see. So, yeah, I want to see it in fucking IMAX, and that's what I want. Totally immersive experience. It's probably not going to happen. I'm interested in A Quiet Place 2 because I didn't really enjoy A Quiet Place 1. Most people would say that they're interested in A Quiet Place 2 because they love the first one. I thought as I said, I thought the premise was great, but I had trouble believing the characters' decisions, so it took me out of the movie a lot. So I'm looking forward to seeing 2 to see if they've rectified that, to see if they've sort of changed that. Not that didn't appear to be a common criticism of the movie. So John Krasinski it's probably not something he went into making that movie being mindful of anyway, because I seem to be the only person that had issues with the decisions. I didn't believe the characters would make those decisions based on everything that was going on. So there's no reason to believe that the characters wouldn't continue to make those decisions in the sequel. But I am looking forward to seeing it because I love the premise and I want to like it. So hopefully I'll like the second one. And then what other movies are coming out? I'm just typing that in. 2021 movies. Oh, Ghostbusters Afterlife, of course. I'm really looking forward to if it comes out this year. Candyman, The Conjuring 3. Coming to America. Oh, I can't wait to see it. I'm a huge Coming to America fan. The first one. Can't wait to see that. Just scrolling down here. A lot of movies coming out. I mean, supposed to be coming out, but Dune. I'm looking forward to seeing Dune. I had a list that I did for my patrons, actually. I don't know where the list went. I had a list of my top 10 most anticipated. I shared with my patrons. Halloween Kills. Yeah, I mean, Halloween Kills is on the list, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's my most anticipated. That might be Kong and Godzilla, maybe even Ghostbusters. It's just because Halloween Kills, it just sort of, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's up there. I mean, for sure, because I'm a Halloween fan, so I can't wait to see it. But I don't know if it would be my number one. I'm not so sure. And this sounds like a bit of a cop-out. It sounds really cheesy to say this, but it's me, Billy. And I say that, I know that sounds really lame because I'm the guy that made the movie, but I'm looking forward to getting it out there. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of a cool experience to be able to do this and get it out there. So, in that sense, it's kind of anticipated for me and for Bruce. We're excited to finish it and put it out to the world and let the chips fall where they may. So, but I know what you meant by the question. So those are some that I'm definitely looking forward to. Coming to America 2, Ghostbusters Afterlife, Candyman, Halloween Kills, Dune, Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus Kong. I think it's Godzilla versus Kong, I think. So yeah. Jeff Harris says, "Hey Dave, are you a fan of Mortal Kombat?" Not really. Are you also looking forward to the upcoming movie? Not really. That doesn't mean I don't like it. It just means that I played the video game as a kid. I'm not like religiously, but I have played it. I have seen the 1995 movie, I think. Mortal Kombat. It was awful. It was cheesy and fun all at the same time. But I don't really care about it. I haven't thought about, I couldn't care less whether they made another game or a movie ever again. I just don't care. It's not something I was really into. So, cool. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's it's one of my most anticipated though, but I know it has its fans and I know people have wanted to see a legit Mortal Kombat movie for quite some time. So, we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. Evil Alex says, the Snyder Cut, Dune, Conjuring 3, Kong vs. Godzilla, Candyman, Halloween Kills, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Mortal Kombat, Scream 5. You know what I should do? I should compile a list of independent films, it's me, Billy aside, independent films that are, because that's, a given for me, but that are coming out that you've never heard of. Because we tend to focus on the big Hollywood tentpole film. Like every movie you said there is sort of mainstream, right? I should look to see what sort of non-mainstream movies are planned to come out this year and put a list together and, maybe pique some of your interests. Because there's a lot of great, it's funny, when people say there's no originality anymore. Well, no, there's a lot of movies that come out that you just don't care to see because they don't have the Hollywood polish on it, and it's like pulling teeth to get somebody to watch a movie they've never heard of, or that's independent, and I don't mean amateur, I mean independent, not outside of the studio system. That's what independent means, by the way. An independent production, I mean, there are amateur home movie productions, obviously, that you get kids making, but I'm talking about like movies that are made independently of the studio system. So they're not financed through the studio or through their partners or, whatever the case is. They are independently financed, whether that means it's through, a site like Indiegogo, or it's through grants or an independent production company that has money that can help finance through their lenders and things like that. But it's outside of your Paramounts, your Warner Brothers, your Universals, your 20th Century Studios, that kind of stuff, right? There's a lot of amazing independent films out there. Independent doesn't mean amateur. It just means, like I said, outside of the studio system. But they're professional productions. It's like how we handled It's Me, Billy, right? It's Me, Billy was a professional production through and through, right from the very beginning, right through to what we're doing now. So, yeah, there's a lot of amazing shit out there. Stuff I haven't even heard of. Stuff that I'll come across and be like, like there was one, what the fuck was it? There was one not too long ago. Damn it. And I saw it. I didn't watch the movie. I saw that it was coming out. I read the premise and I was like, oh, that sounds so good. And it's being released by like, like A24 or somebody different. And I was like, oh, I want to see that. Not that, of course, the tent poles, the staples, the blockbusters, and of course they're anticipated. But there's a lot of good shit out there, man. If you know where to look and you know where to sort of, there's a lot of good stuff out there. There really is. Michael Myers says, Dave, have you seen the John Wick movies? I have. I've seen all 3 of them. I think they're getting a little ridiculous now. I love the first one. Love the first John Wick. Thought 2 was okay. I thought it was okay. It was good. 3 was, I think 3's jumping the shark for me a little bit. Like the last thing when he like falls off the roof and shit and hits and he's okay. It's starting to jump. Like what I'm worried with, what was so cool about John Wick, the first movie, is yes, it's stylized in terms of the action, the fighting. It's very choreographed. Like when you watch John Wick, if this was a legitimate fight, it wouldn't look like it's very much Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan and Anakin. You know what I mean? It's like a dance, like they're doing a dance, and it's cool to watch. And the choreography is impressive and it's amazing. And the skills, like they're showing off their skills, is amazing. And it's okay if it stays there because it just becomes kind of a pretty dance. And you know who's going to win anyway. Okay, cool. But my worry is that novelty eventually wears off. The more movies you make, naturally, right? The first John Wick I thought was fucking great. By part 3, especially by the end, I'm like, he wouldn't survive. Like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, don't go Cobra Kai territory. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay. Cobra Kai is a great show, right? But it's unabashedly cheesy. And it's supposed to be that way, right? It's supposed to be that way. They don't shy away from it, right? The choreography and the fighting between the kids and everybody is hyper, it's stylized, it's very hyper, it's very cartoony, right? Very comic booky. And sometimes when you look in the background, when you're watching a fight in the foreground and you look in the background, you can tell that they're not really fighting. They're not even really punching each other. Like it's very, but you buy into it because the show doesn't try to present it as anything but. It's supposed to be like that. It's just a fun, silly show, right? They don't want to go too far, but that's part of the fun, right? I get worried that John Wick's going to start, they're going to have to keep topping, each other. And it's like John Wick at the end of 3 fell off like a building or something, right? Or whatever it was, or some sort of, he hits something and I'm like, man, like he's not a superhero. He's a guy. He's a man. He's not a superhero. He can't fucking take that shit, And I don't know what, and with every movie naturally, look what happened with the Fast and Furious, right? The Fast and Furious, regardless of what you think of and I understand that since Fast 5, I saw Fast 5 in the theater in 2011 when it came out. I think it was 11. And that was my first Fast and Furious movie I ever saw, by the way. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And my girlfriend at the time, not the same girl, was like, well, you got to watch the others. And I watched the others and I was like, well, these aren't as good, because but look what happened. And now it's ridiculous. Now they've changed the whole identity of the show. They've changed the entire identity of the show, of the movie. They've changed the entire identity. They've changed everything about it. And now it really is, it's comic booky. It's cartoony. I watched Hobbs and Shaw. And it's cartoony and it's fun and people buy into it. And I guess people are on board with it now and that's what it is. But it's a complete far cry from what it was supposed to really be about. You know what I mean? Chasing cars fast, and sometimes you get into now they're superhero movies. The Fast and Furious franchise, they're superhero films, essentially. They are, 100%. I don't see the Fast and Furious films any different than I see the Marvel films. I really don't. Because they defy physics, they do the impossible. Like you would die. You couldn't do that. You would die. You know what I mean? It's just, they're superhero films. I don't want John Wick to turn into that. And the more you do, naturally, the more you have to keep one-upping your previous story and your previous film. You have to keep making the action bigger and more bombastic and all this stuff. And eventually, like, what does that mean for John Wick? Is he going to be fucking leaping from buildings, you know, falling down stairwells, you know, 30 feet and swinging across through wind? Like, this isn't, you know, there was a believability to the first John Wick, despite the fact that the choreography was very stylized and clearly choreographed. So I don't know. That's how I feel about it. I like the movies. I do. But at the end of part 3, that was the first time where I was like, okay, really? You're going to go on? Like, I thought 3 was going to be the end. And keep in mind that John Wick 1, 2, and 3 all happened within what, like 10 days? Think of that, right? Is it like 10 days or 2 weeks? It's all a very short period of time. The shit that man has gone through in like 10, 14 days, whatever it is, because they all pick up like relatively within like a few days of each other. The shit that he's gone through, it's crazy. They're fun to watch. And if you don't care about believability and you don't care about that, and I don't care about that either if the foundation was presented that way. That was the point of the Cobra Kai reference, right? Is that it was never trying to be anything but what it was, right? It was never trying to be anything but what it was. But when you start with a movie like John Wick and you start kind of here and it's like, okay, that's cool. And then you kind of take it to cartoon territory, which they, you know, are on the verge of doing. I just kind of like, I don't know, like, where did this come from? You know what I mean? But you'll go see it. You'll buy a ticket and you'll keep it going. And when I say you, I mean the collective you, like all of us, like, you know, they'll do it. They'll do it, I guess. I don't know. But that's how I feel. That's how I feel. Chris Baber sends in a $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much, Chris. Says, and good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. Steven Seagal, in his prime, made the best down-to-earth action fight movies. Just my opinion. Very cool. I'd have to go back and watch some of those early Steven Seagal movies, but you may be right. You may be right. Yeah, I mean, definitely, look, action has always been stylized and it's always been choreographed, but certainly in the year 2021, we've entered into fight sequences are starting to become superhero in nature, not even in superhero movies. Like, they're becoming very stylized and overly sensational and it's like in a non-superhero movie. You know, and yeah, I get it. John Wick has martial arts training and he's fighting guys that have that training. So it's okay in that regard. But even still, you can tell that they're dancing, right? You can tell that each other knows where they're going to put their fists and their arm and all that kind of stuff. They're dancing. So it's beautiful to watch and it's believable to a point. But then it becomes kind of like, you know, watching. That's what I hated about watching Anakin and Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith. It looks beautiful. It's beautifully choreographed. But I don't believe for a second that they're both trying to kill each other. I don't believe for a second that every single swipe that Obi-Wan and Anakin did was somehow trying to get to the other. You know, and if somebody's going to come back to me and say, well, no, they weren't trying to do that. They were just, you know, fencing. Well, then what the fuck's the point? What's the point? Like, you want to believe that when two Jedi are facing each other, when Luke is facing Darth Vader's trying to kill, well, okay, he's not trying to kill Luke, to be fair, because he wants to bring to, like, I get all of the backstory on that, but he's not, you don't get the feeling that it's choreographed, even though you know it is. Because it's not as hyper, it's not as, you know what I mean? It's more tame and feels more realistic. So, but you're right. I mean, action sequences and fight sequences, whether they were Indiana Jones or Die Hard or Steven Seagal or, you know, whatever the case is. Yeah. Back in the day, they were more tame, felt more real. Right. But now, you know, I mean, you're shooting fight sequences from, like, you know, 5 different angles with 5 different cameras to create a sense of urgency and high octane tension and you're getting, I don't know, it's crazy. It's crazy. And that's fine if it's Superman fighting Batman. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, these are superheroes. These are larger than life characters. But when it's, you know, John Wick fighting a bunch of, like, you know, henchmen, I mean, it's like, It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. But they're fun to watch. No doubt about it. They are entertaining for sure. I just hope they don't go too far, and I don't know what you're going to do. I just have that feeling that that's what we're going to do. That's what they're going to do with the fourth John Wick. But I love the first John Wick. And I like 2 and 3 too. I did. But I love that first one. I think it's great. Donita Brown. So nice to see you here, Donita. I haven't seen you in a while. So true, because in the next Fast Furious, when I saw the big chain fly the car with Dom and Nettie, is it Nettie? I'm not familiar with the characters. I've only seen a few of the movies. Across the river, I thought, where is this franchise? Oh, it's true. What one was it? What Fast and Furious movie was it where they had the submarine? Like breaking through the ice or something or whatever. Guys, as I said, I watched Fast 5 in the movie theater when it came out a decade ago. And that was the first movie that The Rock was in. The first Fast and Furious movie that The Rock was in. And I remember thinking that movie was like, and that movie is ridiculous, but it's tame. It's completely tame in comparison to where they've gone now. But I remember loving Fast 5. This was really fun. This was very entertaining. But when I saw like the one that James Wan, I didn't see it, but I saw the trailers to the one that James Wan did, which I think was Fast 7 or something. They've done it. Like looking at it, they're, as I said, they're superhero movies. That's what they are. The Fast and Furious franchise is no longer about car racing. I mean, you get the racing in there, but it's not about that. They're fucking superhero movies. Vin Diesel's character, what's his name? Dom, is that it? Is a fucking superhero. He's a superhero, 100%. They're also, you might as well just put capes on everybody because that's where that movie's gone or that's where that franchise is gone. And listen, hey, some people really love it. Chris Baber, again, thanks buddy, says, not sure if it's considered an action movie, but my favorite Harrison Ford movie will always be The Fugitive. Oh yeah, I consider it an action, more of a action thriller maybe? It's a thriller. For sure. It's a great movie. Oh my God. The Fugitive is definitely one of the best Harrison Ford movies of all time. Of all time. I didn't kill my wife. I love that movie. And I didn't see that movie in the theater when it came out, unfortunately. But I remember my mom telling me about it. She saw it in the theater. And I was living with my dad at the time, and I was talking to my mom on the phone, and she was like, oh, David, you've got to go see this movie. And of course, it came out in 93, so I would have been 14. I would have loved to have seen it. I love The Fugitive. I think it's a great movie. Anytime it's on TV or I see it or whatever, I always watch it. So good. Such a good movie. Michael Meyer says, Dave, have you seen The Boys TV show? I have not. I didn't know what it was about. I'd never heard of it until just, I think, 2 weeks ago or whatever it was. So I Googled it and I watched a trailer for it, and I certainly can see why people love it because it's definitely a TV show for this obsessed superhero fandom culture that we're in. It's Amazon Prime though, right? It's not. Is it Netflix? I think it's Amazon Prime. I don't think it's Netflix. I have Amazon Prime, but I don't know if I have the ability to watch. I got to check to see if I have like the video portion. Like I have Amazon Prime in the sense that I can order a package and it can get to my place in 2 days. Like I have that. I don't know if I have the video side of things because I never really watch. Yeah, I'll have to check. It might be different here in Canada. It can be different. Things can be different. Like here in Canada, we don't have HBO Max. We have something called Crave. And so, you know what I mean? So, Amazon Prime, says Evil Alex. Okay, yeah. Yeah, and look, I mean, if you're really into that kind of thing, then you would 100%. It's right up your alley, right? It's right up your alley. I mean, it's like, what is it? The Umbrella Academy. Like apparently, like I never heard of that before I had spoken to Lynn Griffin, who of course played Claire in the original Black Christmas. And I had her on the channel here back in the summer, and her husband is in that show. And so I was talking to her and her husband prior to going live. We were talking about it, and I had never heard of it. And now I know that is on Netflix. So I Googled it, looked it up, and I was like, oh, okay, this, and same kind of thing, right? Like very much in that realm. And people love that kind of shit. I haven't watched it. but because it's not my type of show traditionally. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't like it. Doesn't mean I wouldn't like it. Like, just because I'm not into all the superhero stuff doesn't mean that I don't like superhero stuff. Like, you got to understand that, right? You know, it's like how there are some people that are into Halloween and Michael Myers and some people aren't. But just because they're not into it and maybe their favorite is Freddy doesn't mean they don't enjoy a Michael Myers movie, or they wouldn't go see the latest Michael Myers movie. You know what I mean? It all depends on how you grew up and what you're into. I didn't grow up into the superhero stuff. It just wasn't what I did to pass my time, or, you know, what I did. But I certainly can appreciate a good superhero movie with a good story. And I've seen the trailer for The Boys, and I look at it, I go, yep, I have no doubt that if I watched this, I would be entertained by it. I'd probably really like this show, 100%. It's just about time at the end of the day. It's about time. Let's see here. What do we got? Gary Rangel says, Dave, are you and Tony going to do a two dudes on any of Rob Zombie's films down the line in the future? I don't know. Tony and I don't particularly like Rob Zombie's movies. Now, I think he likes a couple of them more than I do. We have done Rob Zombie's Halloween. Maybe we'll do Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I don't know. You know, you never say never. Next week, we're doing a Zodiac, so make sure you tune into that. Bring all your conspiracy theories. Andre Webb says, do Canadians have any Canadian entertainment? All their content is US-based. We have a lot. Yes, we have a lot of Canadian entertainment. One of the big shows, actually, that was just nominated and swept the Emmys this past year was a Canadian show. Schitt's Creek is a Canadian show. There's a lot of things that are like that are here. There's a lot of shows that are Canadian, but because we live so close to the U.S., obviously we get pelted with American entertainment and American shows, because that's where the vast majority of the creation is coming from, right? So it's more of a sign of proximity and where the majority of the stuff is coming from. Yes, we are inundated with far more American shows and content than Canadian, for sure. Ironically, many of the American shows you know and love are shot here in Canada, either in Vancouver or in Toronto. So it's kind of funny. Warren Armour says Canadian bacon. Yeah, that's the only thing. See, that is a very typical I don't know anything about Canada American comment. I just find it funny. Canadian Bacon is a movie from 1995, which is an American film, by the way, not a Canadian film. So I find that funny. It's a spoof. It's a spoof on the stereotypes of our two countries with John Candy. So I find that funny. Evil Alex says, you can sign in with your Amazon account in Prime Video and watch everything they have, old and new. I'll try that out, because I know things can be different here. I've tried to download things and it says it's not available in your region. You know, I get that kind of a thing too. I've tried to do that from time to time, and it's like, fuck off with that shit. The one thing that I find very annoying, is when the U.S., when I say the U.S., I don't mean you who lives in the U.S. I'm talking about some of the rules that a lot of these sites and stuff put on. It's like I'm in Canada. I'm literally 90 minutes from the U.S. border. I am 90, if that. Actually, not even that. I'm probably about 65 minutes from the U.S. border. I could drive from Toronto to the U.S. border where it crosses into Niagara or Buffalo in about 65 minutes. And there's some, and I remember when I was looking for a Daffy Duck hat. Now I have one now. Okay. I have one now, but I found this company in Buffalo. Buffalo is literally, like I said, like 75, 80 minutes from Toronto. And because Buffalo is a border city and they do shit with Canada all the time, like at hockey games in Buffalo, at the Sabres games, whether the Sabres are playing a Canadian hockey team or not, they will sing both the Canadian and American national anthem at the game. So if Buffalo is playing Toronto in Buffalo, at the beginning of the game, they will sing the the US and the Canadian national anthem. Well, you think, well, that makes sense because they're playing Toronto. But even if Buffalo was playing Minnesota or Chicago, they would sing both the Canadian and US national anthem. And you might think to yourself, well, they do that because the vast majority of the hockey players are Canadian anyway, which is true, by the way. But no, that's not why they do it, because they don't do it anywhere else in the fucking league. They do it in Buffalo because of the close ties that Niagara and Buffalo have. Like it's right there. I can see Buffalo from Canada, from if you go down there, right? So anyway, it's because of the relationship that they built over the years. So I found this particularly funny. I found a Daffy Duck hat online, and it was a company in Buffalo. And I was like, oh, great, cool. So, and I went to order it online. No, doesn't ship to Canada. So I called them and I said, you don't ship to Canada? No, sorry. I'm like, but I'm right here. I literally can wave to you in your fucking store window. You're not going to ship to Canada? No, we haven't implemented that yet. What do you mean you haven't implemented it yet? I'm not asking you to ship to Beirut. I'm asking you to ship to Toronto. I literally could, okay, well, I'll just drive down and get it. I just find that shit so funny. Or when I'm trying to access a site, they're like, sorry, not available in your region. My region? I'm fucking like right here. What do you mean? I'm right here. What do you mean not available in my region? Like, it makes it feel like I'm in I'm in Guam or something, or like I'm in some far off land where, I'm using the wood burning internet, or something. It's so frustrating sometimes. I hate that. I hate that shit. It's so frustrating. Let's see here. Yeah, Dave, get a VPN. Yeah, I probably should. Let's see. Frank Kreger says, I heard Canada has a 24-hour William Shatner cable channel. Can you imagine? No, that's not true. But can you imagine? That'd be hilarious. That'd be so funny. One of these days, I'm going to, and I mean this, I really mean this. It's just because with the lockdown and COVID and everything, it's fucking hard to do this. I'm going to go out, I'm going to get in my car, I'm going to get a dash cam, and I'm going to place it on my dash, and I'm going to drive around, and I'm going to let you guys see the area of where I live. I'll let you guys see downtown Toronto. And I mean, I've done videos from Dundas Square before, but I mean like drive around, so you can see the city and see the outskirts and whatnot. I think that'd be fun. It would probably be better to do that on a nice day, maybe in the summer, rather than in the bleak winter where it looks very Canadian. You know what I mean? And plus, it's not as nice to drive. Like right now, we just got a dumping of snow. So I'll probably do that maybe in the spring or something like that. That'd be a lot of fun to do, and maybe do it live, or something like that. Or maybe just shoot a video. I don't know. But yeah, no. There's a lot of Canadian content here, and Canadian content especially has gotten a lot better over the years as well. And the shows that we're producing now in Canada can rival anything that the US is producing to a point, to a degree. Of course, it comes down to money too, as well. And but Schitt's Creek, yeah, that's a Canadian show. There was another Canadian show as well that what was it? I thought it just won something. No. Well, I don't know if anybody's heard of these shows. There's shows here that there's a lot of Canadian shows here. Flashpoint was Canadian. Yeah. Heartland is Canadian. I think that's very yeah. There's a lot of you don't necessarily get these shows in the US. You might get some of them in the US depending if they have US distribution. But for example, so Tin Star, Heartland, Private Eyes, Cardinal, Transplant, Schitt's Creek, Nurses, Flashpoint, Corner, Da Vinci City Hall, The Detail, Intelligence, Murdoch Mysteries, Rookie Blue. Like these are all Canadian shows. And I know some of them have Private Eyes. I know some of them have US distribution. I know Degrassi was a Canadian show. The Handmaid's Tale. You guys have heard of that? I think The Handmaid's Tale is Canadian, if I'm not mistaken. Or The Handmaid's Tale is the book is by Margaret Atwood, which is a Canadian author. I don't know if the television series is Canadian. No, it's American. It's American. But it's based on the Canadian book. Fascinating. Anyway, yeah, no, there's a lot of there's stuff, but certainly we are inundated with much more American content for sure. Gelford's dog says, "Are You Afraid of the Dark?" and Goosebumps were Canadian shows. Yes, they were. That's true. I forgot about those. Yes, they were. They were. Jonathan Ball says, "Flashpoint is a good SWAT type show." Yep, that was Canadian, shot here in Toronto. I remember seeing them shooting it. Demand Hammer AR-15 for life says, "Sir Dave of Toronto, in regards to Cobra Kai, which I haven't yet been blessed to see. Why is the character Kreese called Kreese? Was he unable to crease out of his pants? Ching. I don't know, man. That's a good question. Well, I think his name's John. Is it John Kreese or Kreese? I'm not sure. It's a very good question. I'm not entirely sure. I was just looking up. Yeah. And then, of course, I mean, you know, for you horror fans, there's, Canadian horror movies. The Fly was a Canadian horror movie. At least that's what it says here. And then, of course, My Bloody Valentine is Canadian. Black Christmas is Canadian. I even think what was that one? What is that one? Fuck. I forget. There was another one that was Canadian too that was a popular slasher movie. Mike Joseph of Toronto is one of the largest cities in North America, top 5, I believe. Top 4. Oh, in the top 5, yeah, but it's the 4th largest. Yep. Evil Alex says, "What Canadian cartoons and shows did you like as a kid?" Oh, that's a good question. Well, in Canada, we had Mr. Rogers here too, but the Canadian version of Mr. Rogers was a show called Mr. Dress Up. And it was hosted by a gentleman by the name of Ernie Coombs, who is now dead, of course, too. And Ernie Coombs and Fred Rogers were good friends back in the day. And Fred Rogers started here in Canada, actually. He was American, but he worked up here a bit before he landed in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I believe so, anyway. So yeah, there was that. There was Today's Special. You guys remember the show Today's Special? That got U.S. distribution. I think on Nickelodeon or something back in the 80s, early 90s. That was a Canadian show shot here in Toronto. I liked that as a kid. Polka Dot Door was a Canadian show. Actually, there were a lot of Canadian kids shows that if you were to look up, you'd be surprised that you may be surprised that they were Canadian. I know I was. But of course, I mean, in terms of cartoons, a lot of the American stuff too, like Transformers, He-Man, Ghostbusters, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, I love that kind of stuff. Warren Harmer says, "Do they drive on the right side of the road in Canada?" Now, are you being serious? Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, we do. Warren, yes, we do. We drive on the same side. It's not, as I've said before, there's not really a culture shock when you come to Canada. If you live in the north, I mean, living in Canada would be like living in Pennsylvania. That's what it's like. Depending on where you live, right? I mean, and if you live on the west coast of Canada, it would be like living in Colorado or something because of the mountains and everything. All right. Oh, it's 1:31. A couple more minutes here, and then I have to skedaddle, ladies and gentlemen. Just kidding. That's what I thought. Oliver Mercer says, "Would you ever do a live show going around the Canadian hotspots, maybe?" Well, maybe Toronto hotspots. I couldn't do the Canadian hotspots because Canada's quite a big country. But certainly I might be able to do Toronto. Yeah. Could do that. That'd take a little bit, but I could do it. Jonathan Nichols says, "Dave, any thoughts on who you would cast as the next Freddy?" Me! No, I don't have any thoughts. I have no idea. I know I wouldn't do Kevin Bacon. He's too old. He's well into his 60s now. So no, I wouldn't cast him. I don't know. Somebody younger. I don't know. It's a good question, man. It's a good question that I really don't have an answer to. All right, folks, listen, that is going to do it for me on episode 136 of MCRAE Live. I appreciate you tuning in this Thursday on MCRAE Live. And in case you haven't noticed, I am doing the shows at 12 p.m. Eastern time now. I've moved the show from 11 to 12. I want to see how that works for a little bit. I'm contemplating doing the show twice a week instead of 3 days a week for at least the foreseeable future because of everything going on, but I haven't made up my mind on that yet. Just because I'm trying to make, I want to give you guys the best quality, not just quantity. So I want to make some adjustments this year and see where we land and see how that goes. But I'll know more as the days move ahead here. This Thursday, though, on the show, my great moderators, Frank Riker and Darren Sands, will be joining me on the show this Thursday on MCRAE Live at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be talking about the Slaughtered Lamb podcast. We'll be talking about movies, and we'll be just be having a rip-roaring, good old time, laughing and enjoying each other's company. That's this Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern on MCRAE Live, episode 137. Don't forget to tune in to that. And don't forget to listen to their podcast, of course, The Slaughtered Lamb, downloadable wherever podcasts are downloaded, I guess I should say. So that is going to do it for me, guys. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Stay safe out there. And in the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you guys soon. Alrighty. Cheers.